Hello, traders. This is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the week ahead from ForexAnalytix for January 23rd, 2017. My name is Blake Morrow, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about a few developments that are taking place going into this next trading week. First and foremost, the calendar as far as economic events go, it's a little lighter this week versus last week. There's a few highlights. Like on Tuesday, we have Australian CPI that's going to be released, which might produce some movement, especially if inflation is starting to tick higher in Australia and around the world for that matter. Also, we have CPI out of New Zealand on Wednesday. Thursday, we have UK GDP. So that is going to have an effect on the cable. And then also on Friday, we have GDP and durable goods orders in the US. So a little bit of data, but it's more of the setups that we're seeing in ForexAnalytix, or in the markets rather, that have to be paid attention to. Now, if you just scroll through, and if you're looking at ForexAnalytix and you look at just our traffic light page, you'll notice that there are, a lot of these currency pairs that are starting to bleed in some dollar weakness. Now, if you take a look at all of our biases, we have macro, candlestick, basic technical, harmonic, Elliott wave analysis. You'll notice that a lot of our analysis is starting to line up. Like, for example, you see the cable where we're starting to see, some bullish bias on each of the different types of analysis that you see here. Now, harmonic is still yellow, which means that it's a sideways market, or kind of a non-trending bias. But in like the US dollar, Norwegian krona, you can see how we're starting to see some dollar bearishness there. Gold flattening out, silver's kind of flattening out as far as our bias goes, and that is important, because if you look at some of these currency pairs, like for example the euro dollar, and I'm just going to take you over to the basic technical analysis, you'll notice when you click over to the charts that we're starting to base here in the euro, and the euro is approaching some resistance that, if broken, could probably spur a little bit of a short squeeze. And same thing with the pound, especially the pound managed not to make a new low, and might actually have posted more of a double bottom. So, with the pound in particular, especially with the GDP numbers coming out on Thursday, the importance of this is that the cable, well, there's a lot of the bad news is already out. The market knows that we're facing a hard Brexit. And the pound actually had, and this is a weekly candle, a bullish engulfing weekly candle. All right. And possibly a double bottom is developing. That in itself is telling us that in the pound, we might start to see some bullish activity despite, facing a Brexit. Now, I'm going to take you over to the euro pound in just a little bit, because I think there's a key development happening there. One of the other charts that, now we don't have any economic data that's facing this particular chart, but I want to take you over to the US dollar Mexican peso. Last week we discussed the peso, how it was running up against the channel resistance. We actually had posted possibly a double top. We came down and tested, and notice this trend line right through here. We tested the trend line support. Now, if we break through the breakout point, which comes in around 21, let's roughly call it 2140. Okay, we break through that breakout point. That double top could take us down to 2080, might even take us down to the 38% retracement, which is the 2055 level. Now, one of the reasons why we're keeping such a close eye on the US dollar Mexican peso is President Donald Trump has now taken office, and because of that, he's been extremely tough on trade. His rhetoric against Canada, specifically Mexico, has been very tough. But as traders come in and investors come in, and realize that that maybe Donald Trump, it's not going to be as easy for him to push through some of his policies that he's been talking about on a campaign trail. It's easy to campaign about it, to get action. Everybody knows it's a little bit more difficult. Perhaps the U.S. dollar Mexican peso starts to pull back a little bit, as you know, the dollar has rallied because of, or in anticipation of, Donald Trump taking office. But now that he's taken office, we are starting to see a little bit of peso strength. I don't know if there's going to be any long-term damage, where the peso really strengthens against the dollar and the dollar really comes crumbling down. I don't know if we're in a scenario like that. But being at the top of the channel, the lower end of the channel, by the time we get there, if we're just respecting this trend line, this lower trend line that you see through here, we could eventually make it down to 1950. We're at 2150. That's a pretty big decline for the US dollar Mexican peso if it does happen. Now, I wanted to talk about the euro pound because we did discuss that just a moment ago, and the euro pound had a really key rejection this week. Now, when Theresa May, the talked about a hard Brexit last weekend, and this is after actually we made the week ahead video from last week, the cable actually gapped lower, the euro pound gapped higher. We filled that gap first thing last week, and we continue to fall. Now, we might be developing a head and shoulder pattern in the euro pound. Notice that we rejected there's the high, the spike high that was made back in October, to the lows that were made down here in December. We came up to the 618 retracement, previous support, and now we might have a complex head and shoulder pattern where it's cockeyed, if you will. It's a little, it's not perfectly horizontal, these lines. It's something to pay attention to, because if you look at the weekly chart, we stopped at the 78% retracement. Now that was from the high, the spike high back in 2008, to the lows, and that's financial crisis, post-financial crisis highs, down to the lows that were posted in 2015. We went out to the 786 retracement, and since then that was our spike high. So we might be developing a head and shoulder pattern here with the UK GDP numbers coming up on the 26th, which will be this Thursday. If the UK data continues to be a little bit better than we've expected, we might see a little bit of a sell-off there, and maybe even come down towards the neckline later on this week. So there are some pretty key developments happening in the FX market. Obviously, we want to one last thing I think we'll pay attention to is just take a look at gold. Gold has stopped at some resistance, and let's go take you over here to just more of an intraday chart. You can see we're around the 50% retracement, 50% retracement here. And actually, if you take a fib, and here, let me grab a fib really quick. You go from high to low. Okay, we have a 50% retracement coming up. We have also some resistance through here. You can see there's resistance through there, and also we have some previous support over here. So there's a few levels of resistance to get up to, but the gold could start to try to break higher and take us to the major downtrend line. Now that major downtrend line, this is really what separates the bulls and bears. And that comes in right now all the way at around 1300. Now we've got a lot of distance to travel between here and there, but it's just something that we should be paying attention to moving forward, especially if we continue to see dollar weakness. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be your week ahead. Don't forget to get signed up with ForexAnalytix. You can take your trial for the first 10 days for only $1. Go to our homepage to learn more about us. All you have to do is click on this video right here. It'll tell you all about what we do. Thank you all. Have a great trading week. Thanks for listening in.